All right, we're ready.
All right. Welcome everyone to the Dane Arts Grant Advisory Panel. Thank you so much for taking your time to serve your community in this way. The funds are encouraged to support local artists and arts organizations and help make Dane County a thriving arts hub. So I thought that we could start with some introductions of everybody. So I'll go first. My name is Kelsey Udisi. I'm a commissioner on the Dane Arts, and I'm also affiliated with the Wisconsin Union as the Wisconsin Singers Program Coordinator. I'm a long-term Madison resident and always happy to serve our county and provide more arts opportunities for everyone. All right, so if everybody else could give a brief introduction of themselves, of your name, your role, or an organizational affiliation. Just kind of going down my Zoom line. Ben, would you like to go first?
Hi everyone, my name is Ben Carley. I am a current doctoral candidate at the UW-Madison Mead-Witter School of Music with a minor in arts administration from the Bolt Center. I'm the executive artistic director for the Madison Gamer Symphony Orchestra and former adjunct professor of flute at East Texas A&M University School of Music. And yeah, I am from Texas, moved here for the doctoral degree, and I'm very excited to be serving on this panel. Thank you.
Great, welcome, Ben. Mackenzie.
Morning, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Zadrali. My pronouns are she, her. I am affiliated with Wisconsin Foundation and Alumni Association, where I do alumni relations work. I am a lover of the arts and a longtime Madison resident, though I moved away and eventually Madison called me back. And I've done this a couple of times in reviewing grants. Really happy to serve in this role. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Emily.
Morning, everyone. I'm Emily DeVore. I work for Downtown Madison Inc. and Destination Madison as their Director of Placemaking and Economic Development. I also have in the past been a part of projects such as leading like placemaking transformation projects around town with like the Lakefront Porch Project and have experience applying for grants and leading the community through that process in that capacity as well.
Welcome, Emily. Jimmy.
Hello, I am Dr. Jimmy Cheffin. I am the Director of Student Engagement and Community Impact at Madison College. It's exciting to be here today and talk about these grants because we know we're always in the community. Some of them I'm familiar with and some of them I'm not, and it's just a fun experience. Ben, I'm not from Texas, I'm from Arkansas, so we have we're from the South, so it's good to be here and have this discussion.
Well, welcome to Wisconsin, Jimmy. Casey.
Hi, everybody. I'm Casey Okers. I've lived in Madison for 20 years now. I'm the Director of Development at the Madison Symphony Orchestra. So have been having Dane Arts grants coming through the process for many years. But it's fun to be on the other side of it and reviewing some different kinds of applications and organizations that I haven't heard of. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Casey. Augusta, do you want to jump in?
Yeah,
any intros?
Sure. I think I know all of you, but my name is Augusta Brula. I am the Dane Arts Cultural Affairs Specialist. This is probably about the third year I've been observing these grant review panels, so we're always extremely grateful for your expertise. Your insights are critical to the grant process, so thanks again for being here.
Thanks a lot, Augusta. So before we jump in, just a couple of things to note. So we want to share the Dane Arts mission again. The Dane Arts Commission is committed to making our county stronger by supporting citizens, groups, and organizations that preserve our shared heritage and create arts and cultural opportunities for residents and visitors. So our mission is to engage participation, connect people, and inspire expressive living in Dane County. We hope to create equitable access to arts, culture, and local history activities in Dane County, Wisconsin, provide opportunities for creative expression, engagement, and connection with one another, and excellence in the arts. So, the process of reviewing. By now, you have read the online applications assigned to you in web grants, taken notes on each application regarding how each proposal aligns with the review criteria. The Dane Arts Commission is going to determine funding based mainly on your opinions. So it is critical that you are fair, deliberate, and attentive to detail. As you know, it is not an easy task for some of these groups to submit a full grant proposal, and many are written by volunteers who already work full-time jobs. We don't want to unduly jeopardize those who may be new to writing grant proposals, but we do have criteria for judging merit of a project. Often the request dollars, as you are going to see, are more dollars than we have to allocate. So your attention to each application is critical to the success of the grant program. However, Dane Arts plans to again award a minimum of $500 to all eligible fundable applications. So once again, thank you all very much for joining us this morning and being fair, deliberate, and honoring work that produces high caliber art and meaningful arts experiences for Dane County residents. All right, the time is, and I can share the guidelines application once again that has the scoring. So I will throw that into the chat right now. All right, so our agenda for the day is to look over 10 applications. So the process is that I will be introducing each review, naming the organization, the ID number, and the amount requested. The primary reviewer leads the discussion by offering a brief overview of the proposal, strengths and weaknesses as they apply to the sections, comments on whatever budget and supplemental materials or supporting documents are in order, and offers an overall assessment on the quality and feasibility of implementing and completing the proposed project. The secondary reviewer will add any additional information and your opinion, and then we will open the discussion for a few minutes to everyone. Not everyone has to speak about every application. Immediately following the discussion, we will reserve a couple of minutes for you to score and hopefully submit your scores and notes. At the end, we will have a brief discussion about the process to get your feedback and recommendations for making this process work smoothly. Any additional observations on the state of the arts in Dane County are also very welcome. And before we dismiss, we will ask that everyone finish completing and submitting all of their evaluations. So my role as a co-chair or as a chair is to keep eye on process and time. I'm not a discussant. I will not offer any of my own opinions on any of the applications. I'll be listening for your insights and recommendations, and we'll share those with the commission as appropriate. There will be some observers, but the meeting is public because we are meeting virtually. Our meeting will be recorded and available upon request. All right, any questions before we begin? All right, anything else from you, Augusta?
I don't think so. I'll just make sure that after the first review happens, that everyone's comfortable submitting the final scores in web grants. So we'll just take a few minutes, especially for the newer people, or if you haven't reviewed since web grants went through an update. So we'll keep on going, and I'm here for any technical questions.
All right, thank you. We have about 10 minutes for each grant, and we will be taking a planned break at 9:30. So it is 8:43 right now. We are going to jump into our first application, which is Bach Around the Clock, which is ID number 26488, requesting $2,000. So we will start with Casey as our primary and then have Jimmy as our secondary.
All right, jumping right in. This is Bach Around the Clock. They're requesting $2,000, which is 26.32% of their overall expense budget. Bach Around the Clock is a free 4-day music festival that performs the music of Bach. It takes place in March, over 4 days. The primary venues are St. Andrew's Church and the First Unitarian Society. About 90 people participate. It is live, so they have 4 different segments. They have a live performance opportunity, which goes for many hours. They have a virtual performance opportunity, which I guess is where people can maybe record performances and upload them so people can watch them. There's Musicale at the First Unitarian Society, and then there's a gala concert, which features a guest artist. So this is a combination of community performers and professionals. It's open to the public. Anybody can participate. It's just a free festival of championing the music of Bach, and it's run by mostly volunteers, and their artistic director is paid an honorarium. I felt that they had a pretty solid marketing plan. I think the leadership of this festival has changed in the last couple of years because their previous artistic director passed away. So it's been, new leadership with some new ideas. So the marketing plan was very comprehensive. They have a plan to reach and invite potential performers. So part of the marketing plan is getting people to participate in the festival, and then part of it is advertising the festival so that there will be an audience for the performers. So the marketing plan addressed both of those things. In a community music festival like this, where there are amateurs, students, professionals, all the whole range, they really do inspire each other when they perform, which is part of the beauty of a project like this. They do collect a lot of data. So I was really impressed to see that they had a by the numbers data sheet, which showed the attendance data that they collected last year. So the people running this know that it's important to be able to measure their impact and know, how many people they're reaching, and that what they're doing is being effective and mattering to somebody. So that was really encouraging to see that. Again, it's free to attend, it's free to participate in. Their financial plan, they're requesting less than the maximum request for this grant. So it's a pretty modest request in the grand scheme of, what they could have done. Overall, it's a fairly low budget project. So their budget explanation was okay. It didn't, I just have to look at it again. I don't think it went into enormous detail, but yeah, they provided a paragraph explaining the expenses. They had very strong letters of support, and again, the by the numbers impact numbers that they provided was impressive to me. Also, what I appreciated about this is that they specified that they have 3 new ideas. So, as we know, some projects are done every year, and if they're really successful, you say, well, why do we have to do anything new? But the people running this are showing some creativity and, wanting to kind of push themselves to do some new things. And so they're introducing a new segment where they'll perform the music of Bach's children, not just J.S. Bach himself. They have a new choir that they're introducing, and they pointed out that their masterclass has a new clinician each year, so they don't just have the same person doing it each time. So overall, I felt this was an extremely strong application. I'm glad to have been the one to present on it. So yeah, I didn't really have any opportunities for improvement. I thought that this was a really solid application.
Thank you. I guess I take it. I think overall this was a strong, well-developed application. I enjoyed it. One of the things that it touched that it stands out by combining live and virtual events and introducing, and I thought that was a pretty interesting. I felt that the proposal, the people have confidence in the presenters and talent, and seem like they're very experienced in doing this type of work. As I looked at the application, I think the only thing I probably, if there was anything, is I kind of thought about why the relationships illustrate strong grassroots engagement. I probably like make a further highlight collaborative depth and that sort of thing. But overall, I felt like, especially when I talk about the planning, I felt like it outlined this evaluative methods, performance discussion, audience, and participant count. I thought that was well, especially the metrics. I thought that was pretty in depth, and I feel like they had a lot to offer, high quality art experience as well. And I see, and as she said, it is a modest ask, and I felt like this supplement material added value to it. So I liked it a lot. It's very interesting.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Casey. Would anyone else like to add anything? All right, let's take a couple minutes to work on or submit our scores. And then if you could help me, let me know when you are ready to move on by adding a little thumbs up emoji.
So the question, so we put our score in that scale, right? And then we just say save, just press save. That's it.
Yeah, so Jimmy,
Or-
you'll press save, and then once you save it, a green submit button will appear.
Okay.
And so click submit, and it'll say, "Are you sure you want to submit?" And you'll click, "Yes,
All right.
I'm sure." And then
Gotcha.
you can go through.
Gotcha.
I'll double check to make sure they're all in as well,
All right.
in a minute or two.
Mackenzie, do you have a question or are you all set?
Sorry, that was a stand-in for my thumbs up.
No problem.
Okay, hold on.
Thanks, Casey.
Sorry, what are we supposed to do to indicate that we're done? Just like give the thumbs up reaction?
Yeah, that'd be helpful, but
Like-
not
Like my actual thumb, or do you prefer the emojis?
either one.
Okay.
All right. It looks like everybody is ready to move on. Yes. All right. We are going to the next one, which is Monroe Street Art Center, ID number 26490, requesting $3,348.54. Mackenzie is primary and Ben is secondary.
All right. Thanks, Kelsey. Great. Well, I'm happy to share my thoughts on the grant, as Kelsey said, from the Monroe Street Art Center, which is a 501c3 in Madison. They've been in Madison since 1997, and they're a previous applicant for a grant. It was submitted by Carrie Zawecki, their executive director. So the request is for their aspiring artists and musicians classes, which run Wednesday, September 10th of 2025 through May 20th of 26. In terms of the audience, this program provides classes for children's aged birth to 5 years with diverse abilities and requirements, encompassing those identified with autism spectrum disorder, cerebral palsy, and Down syndrome. And in terms of their reach, they're hoping to reach 60 participants through these classes with this funding. So a little bit more on the program. Aspiring artists and musicians offers free inclusive early childhood art and music classes for neurodivergent children. They do this program in partnership with Aspire Therapy and Development. And students work towards therapy goals through art making, instrument play, and movement. I was really excited to learn about this program. I'm familiar with the center, but I wasn't familiar with this class. And I'll note that the classes, I appreciated this, are taught by their staff and faculty alongside therapists from Aspire Therapy, whom they partner with. And they also have, and perhaps this is coming from the staff with Aspire, speech, language, and occupational therapists, yes, from Aspire, who provide some expertise and insights for the class, which I thought was really a great partnership. In terms of their outreach for these classes, they do partner with a number of organizations in addition to serving their core audience. So I appreciated that they do outreach to Down Syndrome Association of Wisconsin, Padres and Hios and Asion. Please forgive my pronunciation there. I took French. And they also, as noted, work with Aspire Therapy. So I was happy that they were doing outreach to their audience through their channels, but then also partnering with these organizations to reach their target audience. As Kelsey mentioned, they're requesting $3,348.54. I did note in their budget that they had 2 other pending grant applications out, so I was appreciative that they had some diverse funding they were looking for. The budget was clear, and I felt like the budget narrative was also a nice piece for those of us who aren't always, who like a little bit more narrative, so I appreciated that. They had letters of support and some additional materials, and I wanted to read this quote from a participant's mother, which I really appreciated. It said, "There is not another place in Madison that offers the classes, support, and learning experience that Monroe Street Art Center does. Please support these classes that benefit children so much." It was a pretty moving letter, and I was, again, really happy to know about these classes and their partnership with these organizations in the area. So I thought this was a strong application and a unique class and offering that I'm happy to know is in our community.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Ben.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and just add yes to everything Mackenzie said. This was actually a very touching and moving application to read. I thought the writing was framed the concept of the program very well. It was able to pull you in as a reader. The letter of support was especially moving and inspiring. They had great supplemental materials. They have, diverse income, so that was good too. I thought maybe the requested percentage was just a tad bit high, but that's, not in comparison to everything else. That was just like a small little thing. It's such a very well written application, so very happy that I was secondary on this one.
Thanks, Ben. Would anyone else like to add anything?
I just have a couple small things. Their demographics said that it was 100% children that are reached. I just wondered if, the parents and the caregivers that are in these children's lives are also being impacted by this. And so even though the classes are for children, I just, this isn't really criticism. I just wondered because I'm like, there's parents and there's caregivers. They're adults. They're not listed here as being impacted by the program. Also, they indicated that the district served was just like one district where the center is located, but I was curious to know what communities the participants are actually coming from, because that would show more impact than just it impacting where they're doing it. Like if this is not a new program, they probably have some data from where the participants are coming from to show the reach. And then just the last thing with this is classes planning. And so maybe in the future they could attach a lesson plan or like a calendar showing the planning that's been done just to, again, it's not a new program. And so maybe they have some documentation that they could attach to make it even stronger.
Thanks, Casey. Anyone else?
Me myself, I thought it was a strong, well-crafted proposal, and then it aligns with the community needs and it demonstrates effective partnerships. So overall, I thought it was very effective. If I had to give it any recommendations, what I saw, probably more with the develop more specific evaluation benchmarks, strengthen the measurable outcomes. I felt like that could have been. I've read that. I feel like that could have been better. I understand the evaluations through anonymous family surveys and observations, but I think adding benchmarks or quantitative targets would add a little bit more and made it a little bit more robust, especially when you talk about measurable gains and communication or motor skills. But overall, I thought it was very effective. I like it what they're doing, and I'm happy we have this going on in the city of Madison.
Couple short things. I agree with everything that people have said so far. I think this was a really well-crafted application, and did a good job of showing that there's a real need for this in our community, and that it's not occurring elsewhere, which is important, I think, when considering these grants. And I think that interestingly, I think someone touched on this, but even though it says it benefits 60, I believe that might be the children they're referencing as an audience, but they also do a really good job of saying that the caregivers have a huge benefit from this by helping build community, and that the therapists help to sort of teach the parents how to help continue this work at home. So this has like a broader impact than just these sessions. They're doing it at home as well, which I think shows really strong application. And if there were anything to improve, I think, other than what people said, I was intrigued by the fact that at one point it says, it talks about the importance of this work for low income families, but I didn't see anything following up about whether or not they try to target those audiences to come to their sessions, or if they have anything to help those families access this type of situation. So not that that would impact the quality of this application, but something to consider perhaps as they continue to build it out.
Thanks, everybody. Anything else? All right, let's take a couple minutes to submit our scores. And give me any type of signal when you are ready to move on.
I'll jump in here, Kelsey. I can see everyone's scores are in, so thanks.
All right, great. Thank you. On to the next, which is the House Urban Arts Initiative, Inc., ID 26519, asking for $4,025. Emily is our primary and Casey is our secondary.
Okay. So this project is an 8-week theater program for Black and Brown youth, and it culminates in a weekend event with a live performance. It is a paid ticket event, but they offer discounted options. I noted that they do have the venue secured, it looks like, and it's at the Barrymore. And they do have a pretty large audience estimated at 350, and it had varying ages and diversity, which I think is a good asset to the application. Overall, it looks like they're anticipating about 15 to 25 youth participating in this program. And I noted that it's pretty unique and innovative because it's for youth by youth. And so they get to really create the narrative. They're not just acting, but it looks like they're helping to create the script, do the stage production, and everything else, which I think is a very strong asset as well. I think that they did a really excellent job of kind of describing the need for this within the community. So they talk about, I'm just going to pull a bit of a direct quote here. They talk about how there's no consistent outlet for Black and Brown youth to express themselves creatively through theater at the moment, and that there's an urgent need for inclusive arts programming that's able to reflect their voices and lived experiences. I think that's really important, and they did a good job of showing how through the programming they allow these youths to really reflect those lived experiences. Um, And then I think that they did a great job of talking about how they're going to reach their intended audience through a variety of methods and partnerships. I think they showed strong variety of partnerships to help aid them in this endeavor. And their outcomes are more than just this event or program or acting skills. I think they did a good job of describing how this can help build confidence, communication skills, but also just helping our community by nurturing future diverse artists and fostering kind of that outlet for creative expression in underrepresented communities. I thought that their evaluation metrics were good, and that especially the pre and post program survey to measure growth of the participants was really good. I think as a measurement method, more people would benefit from doing both a pre and a post survey personally, to compare kind of the baseline and what has been improved. And yeah, they talk about tax dollars supporting youth development, reducing social disparities, and promoting vibrant, diverse arts communities. So overarchingly, I think this was a really good application. They had a pretty balanced budget from my perspective. I did note that their percentage covered by this grant was pretty high at 43%, and they're asking for 4,000, which is a little bit higher than the ones we've talked about so far. But they did have a list of kind of income coming from not only the performance tickets and everything, but also they've applied to other grants. So that shows a good diversity in funding. And I just think that this program has a lot of value to our community, and I'm glad that it exists. So I think that's it.
All right, thanks, Emily. Yeah, I agree that this is a very important project. It seems like it's very specific about who they're serving and why they're doing it. It's fulfilling a community need. Just to get kind of nitpicky, I was a little bit less impressed with their budget plan. So they do have, the ticket sales, but then they have United Way of Dane County, which is pending, but then the House Inc. is the same 501c3 that they seem to be applying as. So I wasn't really sure what that meant of the house being a donor to this project, but it seems like that's themselves. Maybe somebody else can help clarify that, but the house itself seems to be a 501c3, but they're also using a fiscal receiver, which was a little bit, I don't know, odd. I didn't really know why they couldn't just apply as themselves. If they're already a 501c3, why are they using a fiscal receiver? There was no bio of the director included. So they had a resume attached of a teaching artist. Well, it was a resume attached of somebody, but I wasn't sure who that was, if that was a teaching artist or an assistant director, but They do like name their artistic director, but the bio of that person wasn't included. And there were a few minor inconsistencies with the budget numbers and then the numbers that were in the narrative, the budget narrative. They didn't always line up exactly. So a little more careful proofing would have benefited this. So, but of course, if anybody disagrees with anything I just said, I'm happy to be challenged. But the lack of bio of the artistic director was a bit surprising.
Well, no, I forgot to say I had it noted that similar to you, I would have liked to see more info or examples specifically on the successes, past successes of the organization or the coordinators of the project would have been helpful to feel confident in the future success.
Mhm. I thought this was a very compelling, culturally significant proposal. Theater programming for Black and Brown youth, I'm all down for that 100%. I think this is overall the proposal was to me was of high rating, and I understand some of the mishaps, but I understand what people are rushing, but I understand that I think it was overall a good. If I had any recommendations, I would probably talk about it mentions outreach to schools, community centers, youth organizations. However, it didn't really provide any details on the formalized partnerships, and I just want to see that formalized a little bit more. Uh, Evaluations include pre-post surveys, participant feedback, and audience response. While this provides a good foundation, I think I'm always down with more specific metrics, such as skill gains, retention rates, and show me how you offer strong evidence for a long-term impact. But overall, I thought this was a merits overall rating strong uh application.
I think I'll go ahead and agree with Jimmy there. I do think specificity matters, and I think this application maybe could have benefited a little bit more. I do wholly agree with the concept and the idea and serving Black and Brown youth. I just think um, my feedback for this one is a more carefully thought out budget section. I thought it was interesting that in the narrative, it seemed like there was more numbers in the narrative than there was in the actual budget spreadsheet portion. And then just diversifying the income a little bit more, I think would have made the application more effective. I think also maybe supplemental materials um, could have been um, just a little, I think more effective supplemental materials would have helped the application too. So that's just my thoughts.
I agree with all that's been said, and the only thing I want to add is one of the reasons I love doing this is because I learn about organizations, and I'm sorry to say I wasn't familiar, so I'm really happy to know this organization exists in Madison.
All right, unless there's anything else that you all would like to add, please take a couple minutes to submit your scores.
I got them all. Thanks, everybody.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. On to the next, which is Latinos Organizing for Understanding and Development Incorporated. ID number 26522, requesting $3,000. Jimmy is our primary and Mackenzie is our secondary.
Oh, this is awesome. Yeah, I just saw Oscar. I don't know if I can say that, but I just saw Oscar. But I didn't know there were Latinos in Wisconsin. Is this groundbreaking series of 3 anthologies that amplify the voices of Latino writers and poets across Wisconsin, and is curated by Oscar Morales, former poet laureate of Madison. The newest collection, and this will feature 50 new Latino poets and writers in the state of Wisconsin. Speaking of Oscar Morales, he's very equipped to do this type of work. He's very much in the community. He's the lead organizer, the editor of the upcoming anthology. I didn't know there were Latinos in Wisconsin. He was also the editor of the 3 previous editions. He was poet laureate of Madison 2016 to 20, and he helped organize the Sidewalk Poetry Series in Monroe, parking tickets, poems, and other in the state capitol. So he's very much involved in the community. Now, this writing project involves creating a rich body of work that documents contemporary Latino life, art, history in Wisconsin. The collection will support the research needs of students and scholars in fields such as history, sociology, cultural studies, and literature. Um, as far as his application, again, I thought this was a well-prepared, culturally significant literary project that will amplify Latino voices in Wisconsin, which is needed, and it demonstrates strong leaderships, artistic merit, and so on. So overall, I thought this was a good application. To find the project, the proposal clearly outlines the creation of the 4th anthology of featuring 50 Latino poets, writers, building on 3 previous editions. The project continues to elevate diverse Latino voices and preserve their stories, which is very much needed. This anthology provides a unique cultural, significant literary platform for emerging Latinos writers in a state where Latino voices are underrepresented. And like I said before, the confidence in the presenter is led by Oscar Morales, experienced poet, editor, and former Madison Poet Laureate. This project benefits from a proven record of successful curating 3 prior anthologies and organizing literary events. This audience, the target audience, Latino community, those supporting Latino culture, the youth and interested in poetry and the spoken word are clearly defined in this. I have little things that stick out. I love this application. I always say there's always room for recommendation. The proposal cites a community support such as Citro Espanol letter of support, outlines the pre-publication readings from the engaged. However, additional detail on formal co-sponsoring organizations or long-term collaborative sponsorships could strengthen this proposal. Also, I'm always about the collaboration and the partnership, and I'm also about the measurements, the evaluation, the impact that each one of these beautiful projects make. These evaluation methods include Q&A sessions, audience surveys, online discussions. These provide meaningful feedback. Yet, it would be stronger with more of a quantitative measures, such as tracking distribution to schools, libraries, or assessing the audience growth over time. It's very much obvious how this can benefit Dane County. The budget, the 10,000 budget is clear and balanced with well-documented expenses. Um, and so on. So the only thing I think this is I think it's overall it's a high overall rating. Only opportunities for growth I was like formalize long-term partnerships and incorporate quantitative metrics.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, I agree. I think this was a really strong application, and I'm really happy to see this work in our community and state. I had just a few kind of minor pieces that maybe I wanted a little bit more. One was When it said, when will these take place? It was just spring 2026, even if it's, dates aren't known, maybe just getting a little bit more of a number of events or a little bit more detail there. I understand even if it's early in the planning. I thought that I liked the audience segment breakdowns. I thought that was smart, looking at both the diverse Latino community of Dane County, those community members interested in supporting Latino culture and arts, and then Hispanic and other youth interested in poetry. So I appreciated seeing that kind of level of detail and breakout in the audience. I also, one thing that has really caught my eye and I thought was really strong was, in the Why Are You Creating This project, I appreciated seeing the data from the Pew Research Center providing information around how Latinos are the strongest or the largest, let's see here, reflects the growing presence of Hispanic community in Wisconsin, contributing to its status as the largest ethnic population in the state. I thought that was really compelling data to include, even if dating from a few years back. I think that's all I would add. I thought it was a strong proposal, and I also liked the breakdown of the public value, kind of the why with youth engagement, educational enrichment, and cultural representation and inclusion. It's nice.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Thanks, Jimmy. Anything else anyone would like to add?
I'll just nitpick on the budget one more time. There was really no budget narrative. It just says that they have some confirmed funding. And I thought that that was definitely a missed opportunity to go into some more detail about how they came up with the numbers that they put in for the expenses. So specifically, they have a marketing budget that was like $2,000, I think. Let me just see, make sure I'm saying it right. Marketing promotions total budget of $2,000. But then when it talks about their marketing plan, it really just talks about poetry readings and sorry, I'm in the scroll and it's not cooperating. I'm trying to get to where my notes are. Here we go. Poetry readings and book signings are listed as the marketing tactics, but yet there's a $2,000 budget for marketing. Also, they have book sales, $2,000, but the budget narrative would have been an opportunity to say how they arrived at that. Like, how many do they plan to sell? What is the price that they're selling them at? So just for, those of us that aren't in the planning of this project, it would have shown really that those numbers are not just being chosen randomly. They, as reviewers, it helps us understand the feasibility of the project if we can know how the expenses are being arrived at. But the merit of this project and my confidence that it's going to be awesome is very high.
Thanks, Casey. Anybody else have anything to add? All right, let's take a couple minutes to submit our scores.
So Kelsey, when we review, I mean, is there any way, are they tutored or helped in these application process? I mean, when they tell, like, for example, the budget narrative, right?
Mhm.
Are they told about the budget and they're able to do something about it, or they just have to wait the next year? Is it a learning experience for them? How does that work?
Augusta, do you want to jump in with that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Jimmy.
Because I see a lot of them are, I see them, they're beginners and they're trying to make it work. They're like, oh my God, I got to put this in, and they're trying to push it in. There's like a training or session, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a grant info session that I lead while the application is open. So people can attend that for more information. And then if applicants ask, Mark or I can read through and offer feedback,
Okay,
but only if they ask.
only if they ask.
And then another thing regarding the budget narrative is this cycle is the first time the budget narrative is a required field. In the past, it was optional, but so
Okay.
many reviewers have said it was helpful and that they wish applicants had filled it out. So we just made it required starting this cycle. So
Got it.
I think we're constantly improving our process. So this could definitely be included in a list of best practices that we provide to applicants as well. And maybe it's something we add to our website, so it's more
I get
obvious.
that.
So,
Because sometimes I'm thinking like, did he forget it? Did he just, he was copy and pasting and forgot to put it in, or I don't know. It just seems interesting. Thanks a lot.
yeah, thanks. Great question. Thanks, everybody. I saw all the scores come in just now.
All right, great. We will be reviewing one more before we take a break. So this last one before that is Just Bach Concerts Incorporated, official, or Just Bach. ID number 26538, requesting $2,200. Ben is our primary and Emily is our secondary.
Okay, so Bach Around the Clock, the mission of Just Bach Concerts is to share the music of Johann Sebastian Bach and his contemporaries with the widest possible audience through free concerts, to provide side-by-side learning opportunities, and to show participants on and off stage historically informed performance styles brings Bach's timeless music to life. They are requesting $2,200, which is just 18.11% of their budget. So their narrative, Just Bach Concerts, was founded in 2018 as Just Bach, and it started as a free monthly concert series dedicated to sharing the music of J.S. Bach and his contemporaries through historically informed performances. So basically, a historically informed performance is when the instrumentalists use period instruments and period playing techniques appropriate to how music would have been played back in Bach's time. In 2023, they became Just Bach Concerts, a 501c3 nonprofit, and they actually expanded their programming beyond Madison to reach communities across Wisconsin. This kind of sentiment echoed throughout the entirety of the application. It had a very clearly defined project. They are based mostly out of Luther Memorial Church. That's where they hold most of their performances, which is downtown. They do have some TBD venues in Stoughton, Sun Prairie, and Mount Horeb, so they are getting across Dane County. Proposed project, it's not the most unique project, not the most unique concept, as Madison does seem to be a hub for early music programming, because there's Madison Bach musicians, UW, Madison Collegium Musicum, the Madison Baroque Ensemble, of course Bach Around the Clock, and Madison Early Music Festival. In terms of the community and population served, they did indicate that 70%, they project 70% of their audience to be in the age 60 plus category. Other categories include youth, which they are projecting at 5%, adult 18 to 30 at 10%, and adult 31 to 60 in 15%. So that's what they are estimating their audiences to be. At one point, they did hint at going to underserved communities, though that wasn't really developed. So that was something I kind of offered feedback in that I'll share later. The relevance of the project in terms of community partnerships and collaborators, their website does show that they have 7 partner organizations and 37 donors made up of businesses and individuals. Of those 37, I think it was like less than 5 that were actual businesses. The rest were individual donors. So it does seem that there is significant community buy-in and community backing for this project and organization. In terms of evaluation methods, they said on the application that it will be measured through audience surveys, attendance tracking, and engagement metrics. So that was a little, for me, I thought that was a little vague, engagement metrics. I'm not quite sure how to interpret that. We will expand our evaluation process in season 8 by incorporating online surveys for virtual attendees. So like I did forget to mention earlier, this is funding for their 8th season. So they have been in existence for quite a while. Additional indicators include consistent audience growth, increased donations, and sustained collaborations with local and regional musicians. Finally, all our concerts have a communal singing portion. Noting our audience's enthusiasm during the singing will help us determine success. While I do appreciate that they included that in their evaluation methods, I don't know that how feasible that is to measure, use that as an evaluation tool, the enthusiasm of singing, though I appreciate it. Let's see here. I did appreciate that they also are planning to expand to online surveys. I understand that Bach around the Just Bach concerts has a significant YouTube following. So I think that the online surveys is a nice way to engage those virtual attendees and make them feel more involved and immersed in the performances. I just think more specificity in the evaluation process would benefit. The taxpayer dollars and how this how this project would contribute and for taxpayer dollars, they said enriches a cultural landscape by providing high quality free classical music performances, ensuring accessibility regardless of financial means. So none of their concerts are ticketed; they're all free to the public. They went and added expanding into new communities increases cultural equity and bringing the arts to underserved areas. I do appreciate the huge focus on access. Instrumental music in general has issues of access across the board. However, I do have trouble with them kind of just throwing out bringing arts to underserved areas. I hope that there was maybe some more fleshed out planning, because that portion did seem just kind of thrown out of nowhere. I didn't really see it mentioned anywhere else in the application, the underserved areas portion. So that is kind of some feedback I would give is, how are you finding these underserved areas? What kind of research are you doing, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the grant request only makes up 18% of their budget. Across all cash donations, foundation, corporation support grants, it totals $9,950. Of that, $6,450 is confirmed, while $3,500 is unconfirmed or pending. There is $2,500 that's based on prior year, and $1,000 is a pending grant with Wisconsin Arts Board. And I would say that since this organization is requesting for their 8th season, I'm confident in prior year numbers that they are projecting. Supplemental materials were useful and provided nice contextual feel of the performances. They had many different forms of content. They had program information, they had videos and pictures, so very well, very well thought out supplemental materials. Overall, I found this to be a very strong and well organized proposal from an experienced organization that clearly adds values to the region's cultural life. I appreciate Just Box Concert's commitment to accessibility, both through free performances and by reaching audiences beyond Madison. Their planned expansion into other Dane County communities has real potential for broader impact. The concept is not entirely unique within Madison's early music scene, but it does kind of distinguish itself because it does have some outreach initiatives. Um, it has educational focus, like some of their YouTube videos, you can see the performers explaining things about their instruments. Because these instruments from this time period are slightly different than modern instruments, they take the time to explain that. So I thought that was fun. Um, and I would like to see more clarity with how they define to plan to reach underserved communities. It just seemed a little bit like an afterthought, along with more specific audience evaluation methods. I think maybe including examples of past audience surveys in the supplemental materials would have strengthened this part of the proposal. Um, so yeah, overall, I think it was a really great and strong proposal. That's kind of all for me.
Yeah, okay. I'll just add a couple things. I think I definitely agree with what Ben has said. I think it was interesting to see that with their internet audiences, they have 33,000 views. I was surprised and grateful that they included a metric, a quantifiable number. Obviously, they have success in expanding this in the past and using grants, which is a pro. They had letters that represented strong volunteer support, I think, which is, shows that they can kind of successfully do this. And then I think my kind of thoughts on improvements align with Ben's. Well, one small thing is I saw they didn't really have venues selected for next year. And I know it's a little bit early for that, but also venues can book up in advance. And I think the fact that they've been previously funded and the new part of this is that they're expanding locations. It would be nice to see that they have some kind of confirmation around where they're trying to expand to and the partnerships of those venues. Um, I also would say that like the fact that they're expanding does show kind of a need and a value to the community. However, I would like to see some numbers on maybe expanding the diversity of their audience. It is rather age specific at the moment, and I think the narrative kind of shows that if they started in that church, I'm wondering, is their audience expanding in diversity as they're expanding their locations? I would have liked to see data on that. Since they have been doing this project for a while, I think they should be able to show maybe some numbers around that, um, including success from previous performances. So yeah, overall, I thought it was a great application, but I agree that it maybe is not um, completely unique in terms of free performances around the county here, and would have liked to see more numbers on how they continue to increase their audience's diversity.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Ben. Anything else anyone would like to add?
Well, I like the second, it's interesting, but I mean, Ben, I did the same thing. I was like, when I was reading, I said, did I just read this? Bach? Did Bach around the clock? What? Am I confused? I've been writing. So it's interesting. This is the year of Bach, right? So this is it. So I thought this was it was a good application, but then something triggered me, you the same when you started talking about accessibility, and then I started thinking about, where do they go? And even though, even when Ben said they have partnerships. I went ahead and Googled like, what, who are their partners? Who are their partners? And then I'm thinking, I think it's strong. Of course, they can do this again. Of course, it's needed and it's needed. Of course, it's nothing new. But I think they still, if I had a recommendation, opportunities for growth, is that they need to formalize new partnerships with the community, with underrepresented. And I think that's what they need to go to broaden their outreach. Instead of going out of the city of Madison, they probably need to think about who are their partner with to make it more accessible to underserved of populations. I like what they're doing. I think they continue developing this interactive programming. I like that it engages maybe open it up, engages all ages, and to open it up and think about how they brand their work. So, but yeah, that's all I have to say.
Anyone else like to add anything? All right, let's take a little bit of time to submit the scores. Does anyone need more time to submit this score? All right, so it is 9:40 right now. I think we can take a 10-minute break and be back by 9:50. All right, thanks everybody.
You're doing a fantastic job. This is really stellar reviews. So I can tell you all worked really hard. So I appreciate it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is 9:51, and we're going to jump into our next application, which is Josh Harty, ID 26550. Our primary is Casey, and our secondary is Mackenzie.
Okay, so Josh Harty is a singer-songwriter based in Madison, sort of in the Americana style. He plays guitar, and he is organizing a series of monthly 2-hour workshops where he is going to have, and he has done this before, this is not a brand new project, come in for songwriting workshops. And the people who are going to be participating are people who are recovering from alcohol addiction. So the purpose of the project is to have these folks come in and learn how to play some simple chords on the guitar and then kind of translate their journaling into songwriting. So I think this is a really very interesting and creative, unique way of using music for healing and kind of a social, addressing a social problem, addressing specific needs of a very specific population of people who can benefit from having music participation as sort of a therapy tool. So I'm really glad to learn about this project. He makes the point that addiction has no ethnic bias, so anybody is able to participate in this. It's people who are in addiction recovery. He does have a mailing list where he can do some outreach to try to spread the word about this project. It's taking place at Muso, which in and of itself is an organization that probably does its own marketing and has a way, they have a website, a way of getting the word out. Let's see. Yeah, I thought it was a very compelling project. Let's see. So I hope that he has good attendance and that the people that he serves are benefiting from this project. Now to dive into some things. So he's requesting 50% of his budget as this grant. I think he's a first-time grant applicant, so there's a little bit of maybe a learning curve here. But yeah, 50% of the budget at the full grant amount request of $5,250. One thing that I felt was lacking a little bit was who is doing this project. So it's him, but he also says that there's going to be some guest songwriters and speakers coming in, but there was no information about who those people are. There was no bio or attachments to show who the other people are. So really, it's himself, it's the venue that he's working at, and then it's the people that are participating. I felt that something that I was longing for in this is community organizations that he might be reaching out to as part of his marketing plan, because I mean, I don't know who they all are, but there must be organizations here in Dane County that are helping people with addiction recovery. And so it seems like this project that he's doing, there would be some community partners that he could be telling about it and that they would maybe be referring people to him for this, or, you know, the people that could most benefit from it. It seems like they kind of just have to find out about it. But if he could do some very specific targeted outreach or marketing, and then he could specify who those community partners would be, I feel like that would make this feel a little less of pop-up random project that he's doing, although the merit of it and the purpose that he's doing it, I just feel like there could be a little bit more of a strategic way of implementing it for our community. Then let's see. More notes. So the letters of support that were attached were quotes. There was one quote from a previous participant, but it wasn't really a letter. And then there was media, like a media quote or a media story. So I thought that, again, since this isn't new, I know there's probably confidentiality and stuff, but a letter of support could be written even anonymous. So it would be actually a more formal letter. Also, I had to go outside of this application to learn more about him and his artistic ability, just to gain confidence that this was somebody who was a like established, talented musician that was implementing this. So I thought that maybe in the future he could attach a sample of one of his own performances just to demonstrate the caliber of, because he's a very fine musician, and the recordings I was able to find outside of this application gave me a lot of confidence that he is a good person to be leading this project. But just to save a step. Again, the bios are more specific information about the people he's going to be bringing in as guest songwriters and speakers, because it's a pretty significant expense in the budget of like over $1,400. So who are those people? And then just I would have a little more confidence in the funding plan to see at least one committed source of funding, or at least explaining how the figures that are indicated for nightly donations are being derived. So maybe if it could even say like based on previous years, or again, that it's not just like a random amount that is hopeful that they're going to get that many donations, but how are they deriving that number? So again, I think that I'm really glad to learn about this, and that there's somebody, and him, and hopefully even more people like him that are using their talents as an active service to people who really most need music and arts in their life. And as far as the strength of the grant application, I think there's some room for improvement in the future, but I think overall the project has merit, and I'm glad that we're able to be here talking about it.
Thanks, Casey. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you said, and you're really thorough. So I just have maybe a few minor just additions I would add. I too just want to say that I was really happy to see about this work being done. I actually had heard of the musician, but I wasn't familiar with this project, and I think it's a really compelling project and serving a strong need in the community that I haven't seen, So I thought it was a unique application and serving an important need. I did think that in terms of strengths with the application, I appreciated under the public value, the musician's notes around Dane County faces a serious public health crisis with one of Wisconsin's highest rate of excessive drinking and binge drinking. That's above the US median average. And so I thought that was really strong and good to some compelling data to include. Maybe one other strength I would say, I appreciated the budget summary. That's nice. I always like a little budget summary, a little more detail there. So that was good. And agree with everything Casey said in terms of wanting a little bit more. I think I would just add, and stress. I too thought, wow, there must be such opportunity for community partnership here. And so I just wanted a little bit more there, or saw a great opportunity, I would say, both for promotion, but also probably just for connection and outreach. And so I just, that came to mind for me, and agreed with the notes on the additional supplemental materials. I think, just learning about this project, maybe some stronger letters of support, or having a little bit more information there would have given a little bit more confidence and just room to grow with the application in the future. But a really wonderful work. And again, I'm excited to see them applying and that this work is being done. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
I think that was really well covered, and I agree with everything you all said. And I'll just maybe reiterate, I think this was a really unique idea, and really, I think they did a good job of showing the need for mental health and addiction and recovery resources in our area. But for me, there was maybe a little bit of a disconnect of like how this program does indeed address that in a really valuable way. And I think I can make that leap for sure. But from a grant application perspective, I would have liked to see a little bit more research done on like other programs having value like this, or previous, like you said, letters of support from participants really talking more about the value they received from this, or just a little more substance showing how exactly this methodology is helping this issue in our area. And to me, that is an important note, because they did ask for a bit more money and a bit larger percent of their total grant funding.
One more thing that I thought was good is that in their talking about how they're going to evaluate it, he did say that he would be looking in the surveys or the feedback forms that participants are gaining one new recovery tool, which, as far as like when we're talking about measuring outcomes and stuff, if they can say, yep, they have one new thing that they can now use to help themselves, that was good. It's not just like, how are you feeling, or are you feeling better, and that kind of thing, but now you have a tool that you can use outside of this workshop.
I think for me, among the many strong things about this application, I think this could be such a huge benefit for Dane County. But I would have liked, I did see that he was under fiscal receivership. And so, you know, applying for other sources of income definitely would have strengthened the application, as well as seeking partnerships with local organizations that I know align with this mission um, of his that he's trying to get across. So I think those two things I think would have greatly benefited the application more.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Anything else?
I agree with everyone was saying. I think this is a powerful proposal, especially with the great concern with excessive drinking. Um, Things that stuck out, you know, I like to see, I know he said participants 50-50 men and women, primarily Caucasians. I like to see, and I'm always doubt strengthen those formal partnerships with local recovery and treatment centers. And even though I do like uh, the the qualitative, whatever, but I want them to develop some qualitative evaluation metrics to measure the long-term impact of his proposal. Uh, but yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you. If there's not anything else, please take a couple minutes to submit your scores. All right. Does anyone need any more time to submit this score? Okay. Thanks, Emily. All right. Everyone is ready to go. We are going to move on to the next application. submitted by Noah Bloedorn, ID 26551, requesting $2,500. Emily is our primary and Jimmy is our secondary.
Okay. So let me just pull this one up, switching gears here. This application is for the Shallot, which is sorry, just pulling up my notes here. Okay, so the Shallot, Journal of Mental Health, Art, and Literature. It's a biannual publication that promotes both art and also the healing power of it in mental health struggles. So it's focusing on artists whose work is about the lived experience with mental health issues, and it also uniquely prioritizes work from not only visual and written artists, but from culinary artists, so people within the Dane County food system, which I thought was quite interesting. I thought that it was well integrated within like community engagement processes because they take submissions from artists in the community, but they also have artists within their review process for those submissions. And then they do things above and beyond this publication, including events to celebrate the artists and to continue to raise awareness around mental health, aligning with Mental Health Day in May, or Mental Health Days in October, and Mental Health Month in May. I thought it was good that they have some venues lined up already identified for their events. I noted that their audience was predicted to be pretty large, 1,200 people, and pretty varied other than youth engagement. And it's really focused on Dane County and the food systems and artistic communities. This is not the first time that they have requested funding, but they are expanding into a podcast, it looks like. And I think that they kind of did a good job of outlining that this journal creates a really safe space to talk about mental health. So they're not only helping to educate kind of the public and the readership, but the letters of support indicated that this is helping to create a community among the artists as well. And so I think it's shedding light on and taking seriously an important issue that is sometimes kind of skirted over or taken for granted, that artists do struggle with mental health issues, and a lot of them are using it as an outlet. It does indicate that there's few platforms outside of their work that celebrate this intersection of art and mental health and wellness. So they're filling kind of a gap of underreached people. I felt like in terms of who is involved and how they're reaching their audience, they had a pretty good network of people that were contributing and supporting this. For example, they talk about people who help amplify their reach, like Overture, Art Lit Lab, and even Cadre as an event venue. So it looks like they have good support. And they have a variety of ways that they're reaching out in terms of having both print and digital editions of the journal, which I think is good and good for accessibility. I really enjoyed the fact that they do community dinners and a podcast to kind of create depth to this endeavor. Their intended outcomes were really well thought out. I loved that they had quantifiable metrics about the number of artists they're reaching, podcast episodes, social media engagement. They have a goal to increase it. So I felt like their measurements were ambitious and measurable, which I really appreciated. And then in terms of the value for the public, I think having this be addressing a really critical concern around mental health makes it unique and valuable. And then I really thought that it was innovative how they're collaborating with the Dane County food systems, and that they're commissioning this work from artists. I will say some other strengths. I thought that oh, I got all those. Never mind. Okay, so things that would, I think, be recommendations for me. It was unclear in the budget breakdown to me under other sources. It was good that they had some sales numbers contributing to the finances, and I think some other individual contributors, but under public grants, it just said grants applied for and pending. So it's unclear to me what kind of work they're doing to enlist other sources of funding. So that's an area of improvement. And I would have loved to see, even though they had really strong metrics laid out, I think I would have really liked to see those metrics shown for outcomes of previous years. Since this publication is not new, it would have been nice to see some of the success data from previous years. But other than that, I felt this was a really well put together application. It's addressing an important health need through creativity, which is really innovative. And I think that it's reasonable what they're asking for. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Emily. I must say, I don't see it. I don't see that proposal on my list. I don't know if I accidentally submit, but I have notes. You hear me, Kelsey? I have notes, but I don't know if I submitted it by accident. I don't know. So could you check on that, Augusta, or whatever?
I'll check on it.
Oh yeah, just check on it right quick. Um, I thought this was a well-structured, socially impactful a proposal. It combines art, literature, and mental health awareness in a special way. It has all the things that I think that goes with a good proposal. I think it's somewhat creative, innovative, by combining visual, written, culinary art with mental health, storytelling, highlighting the voices. I think that is pretty good. The inclusion of culinary arts alongside traditional, I kind of like that. I like that. I think that's very creative. And there's confidence, there's no doubt that I think they can do the work. The Dane County Collective, they bring records and arts and community programming. Um, and also, I'm very particular about who the collaborators, do they have a structure of collaborators? As she said already, the Overture Arts, Literature, Library, because a long list of collaborative partnerships, and I think that is wonderful. Another thing, the evaluation metrics include publication counts, podcast episodes, community dinner attendance, social media growth feedback survey. These qualitative measures ensure for success. If I had to give anything for growth, of course, I would like continue to expand these formal partnerships with mental health organizations and local art collectives. And then I'm always down about the long-term impact metrics of how we sustainable engagement with the artists, community dialogue, and so on. But overall, this proposal's overall rating is high, strong funding consideration.
Thanks, Jimmy. And it looks like your review was submitted. Do you want me to open it up for you, or are you good with what you've submitted?
Yes, just to be sure I submit what I wanted to submit, just to be sure.
Absolutely. I'll open
Yeah.
that back up right now.
All right, thanks.
Would anyone else like to add anything about this application? No? All right. Well, please take a couple minutes to submit your responses. Does anyone need any more time to submit their scores? All right, let's move on to the Madison Cello Ensemble, ID 26552, requesting $5,250. Ben is our primary and Casey is our secondary.
Okay, so this is for the Madison Cello Ensemble, which is a 501c3 registered organization. And the project that they're applying for funds for is the Wellspring of Sound Arts Jazz, Cello, and Handpan Concert Series. The mission of the Madison Cello Ensemble, or MCE, is a community where all cellists thrive. At MCE, cellists of diverse backgrounds, abilities, and ages experience the unique nurturing power of learning and playing together. Focus on mindfulness-based instruction, MCE provides experiences that builds on our students' well-being, musical excellence, and creative expression. They are committed to community outreach and building a non-competitive environment where musicians and audiences with diverse experiences flourish. And they are seeking $5,250 for this project, which makes up 37.23% of their budget. In terms of it clearly, if the project is clearly defined, it is, this is for that concert. Also, they are seeking funding for Aaron Freed, who is the jazz cellist. I do know of Aaron from UW-Madison. I believe he was a doctoral student. This was maybe before my time. But he does improvisational jazz on cello, which is very unique. It's not very often that you see string instruments playing jazz music, so that's a pretty cool offering. I will note that some of their performance dates that they listed are TBD for 2026. So I'm not sure if, I know there is a window for usage of funds for this particular grant, so I just wanted to mention that. Proposed project demonstrates creativity. I would definitely say so. Again, it's not very often that you see string instruments performing jazz. The fact that they are kind of providing this nurturing, non-competitive music environment is also is pretty unique. Instrumental music tends to kind of, I would say, maybe sway towards being a little more competitive, so it's nice that this is a little bit different. Their intended audience, they are projecting that youth is going to make up about 50% of their audience. Adults 18 to 30 would be 10%. Adults 31 to 60 would be 25%, and older adults would be 60 plus years old. They do have many relevant community partners and collaborators. I believe, let me just go, let's see, they have listed here Madison Youth Arts, Music Hombrio, WISO, Mad Fiddle, Taft Violins, Muso. So they have plenty of relevant community partners, so that was good to see. In terms of evaluation methods, they did cite that they will have their students and families complete surveys ranking their experiences at the end of the fall and spring semester. They stated data will be collated for the final report to Dane Arts, and they're also going to look at continued enrollment in the second semester as some sort of benchmark or marker for the success of the project. Interestingly, they did also say that they will be videotaping students and the artists to watch and review critically. We will ask the students to provide self-reflective and peer feedback in rehearsals and workshops. So I thought that was a little bit of a unique offering there. In terms of it meriting taxpayer dollars, this was maybe just, I would have maybe liked a little more clarification in this section, but they wrote, MCE has a tradition of inclusive programming that honors diversity, community outreach, and well-being in our music making. And then this was kind of the confusing part. Approximately 1/3 of our students require financial assistance. That was the sentence, a standalone sentence. So that was, I just was a little jarred by that kind of coming out of nowhere. This unique project melds diverse music forms and audiences from vastly different backgrounds, focusing on music that nurtures well-being and creativity. It empowers women, youth, and the queer community to have a voice that reaches into the mainstream of established arts venues. I kind of just noted, and you can see this on the application itself, but for me, I noted that there's a lot going on in this response. And I just feel like maybe some specificity and clarity would have benefited that particular response. In terms of the financial plan, the project budget, the grant again makes up 37.23% of their budget. The income totals about $8,850. Of that, $5,000 is confirmed, while $3,850 is unconfirmed or pending. They do have several in-kind donations. I think the ask percentage is a little on the higher side, but they do have seems to have lots of community buy-in and community support. One thing I thought was kind of interesting and kind of jarring was there was a link on the application, a .eml link that I had to open in some other program, but it did have like tuition and fees. Because in that link they went into a little bit more detail with the finances, and I thought it was interesting that they had tuition and fees listed in that link, but not on the actual budget. So I think that, might be some cause for concern there. In terms of supplemental materials, they are a first-time applicant. However, they only had one letter of support, and I do believe the application stated that if you are a first-time applicant, it's maybe more preferred that you have 2 letters of support. I think the application supplemental materials could have benefited from more varied types of content. And overall, I do think it's a great application. As a first-time applicant, it would have been helpful to include additional letter support once again to show stronger community buy-in. It's not, I don't believe this is the first time they're putting on this program. I think this is an organization that has been in existence for a minute. So I think there could have been more supplemental materials. I wrote that this can go a long way in building confidence in your project to the community and to the reader. Also consider adding other media to your supplemental materials to help bring your vision to life. For the taxpayer dollars section, again, the response seemed a little disjointed there. I consider rephrasing for future applications. And that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Casey, you're muted right now.
Thank you for doing such a thorough job, Ben. That was awesome. I don't have a ton to add. I don't want to repeat things that you said, but I will maybe clarify that it is their first time request for this project from Dane Arts, but it says lower down that this isn't their first time applying to Dane Arts. So, because it says like down, are you a first time applicant? And it says no. So just in terms of addressing your concern about not having 2 letters, maybe it's okay because they've actually applied in the past for something else. I
Got
thought
it. Thank you.
the letter that they did have was really incredible. I did not open that budget and demographics document when I clicked on it and it was taking me to some other program. I didn't want to do that. So it wasn't easy to open, so I did not open it. So thank you for providing some insight into what was in that, but I can't provide any further comment on your comments because I didn't actually look at them myself. So that would just be a note, like make sure that when you're including supplemental materials that they're in a format that doesn't require you to download something or open a different program, or, PDFs and are good because they always open. Yeah, I thought this was a very interesting project and I don't want to repeat things that you said, but you addressed some of my own concerns too. And it seems like a really neat unique project that's serving a lot of people, and just to kind of zero in specifically on what its public value is, I think could have helped.
Thank you. Anything else from anyone? All right, please take a little bit of time to submit your scores. Does anyone else need more time? Okay, thanks, Emily. All right, thanks everyone. The next one is Madison Northside Planning Council Incorporated, ID 26564, requesting $5,150. Mackenzie is our primary and Emily is our secondary.
Thanks, Kelsey. All right. Well, I'll be sharing this project from the Madison Northside Planning Council, Voices from the Community in Madison's Food Systems. This was submitted by Chris Brockle, Director of Food Systems with the organization, and they are a 501c3 founded in 1994 in Madison. I always find kind of the longevity of an organization sort of interesting. So the project runs December 1st of 2025 this year through December 30th of 2026. So the project is looking at creating podcasts. So they stated the Madison Northside Planning Council will produce podcasts series that look deeper into parts of regional food systems, including voices of the 718 surviving in Madison's hungriest food desert, and Dane County farmers rising to the challenge, and Feed Kitchen's Table Talk. So their audience, they outlined that their main audience is including their network of food access partners and all county residents interested in local food systems. It seems like this might be a new endeavor for them, so I can understand that it's a little broad, but maybe I wanted a little more detail there, or in thinking about the audience. In terms of the project and its public value, they noted that their primary goal is to give voice to local farmers, food entrepreneurs, and food insecure families to share their stories with the larger community, and capture some of the experiences and histories of these groups during the current food crisis. So I have to say, I was really excited to learn about this project, and I'll just note that I was happy to see that it was a podcast and sort of a different channel or type of engagement. I think a lot of the grant requests that I've seen are for in-person engagements, which I love and do my primary work in. But I liked that this was sort of a different channel or way to engage with this project through podcasts, which are very strong in popularity, it seems. In terms of the budget, they had, I was happy to see that they had noted both some earned income and then a pending other grant from the Wyden Family Foundation. They did have a narrative with their budget, which I thought was helpful. And my only note there is that it might be helpful to digest if it had been broken down a little bit or formatted a little bit differently, just to help. It was primarily just a 3-paragraph narrative. That might seem nitpicky, but just could be something to potentially improve on in the future. Let's see. In terms of their evaluation, they noted they were going to track the number of downloads, which seems like a good metric. And I just wondered, like, if in the future, as they progress, if there would be other ways that they could be measuring and evaluating their work. They gave a little bit additional narrative there as well, and that they'd be hoping to swap in other community partners in the production and interviews, which I thought was great, but maybe something to think about. Yeah, my other notes, I mean, like I noted, I think that it's a really important topic and way to reach audiences with podcasts, which can be very accessible. So I was happy about that with the project and their partners. I liked their outreach through their social, their community partners, and in person at farmers markets. They had a good number of supplementary materials, included letters of support and bios. So I was happy to see those. And again, I just noted that I appreciated the accessibility with this project through the podcast channel. What peppers my notes? This one was new to me. I was happy to learn about it.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree. I think it was a really well put together application overall, and clearly like a successful organization that has been doing good work in the past. I think it's interesting to hear, from their perspective and kind of just trust their expertise that they're saying there's a desire to share these stories from the population groups that they're talking about. So I think that shows value. They obviously have deep roots in this community and a lot of connections. So I think that's a valid point. And then I think that overarchingly, they note that their deep connections within this food system make them in a unique place to tell these stories and to really bring awareness to the food crisis from the perspective of locals. And I think that the potential of this to kind of do many things at once, like build awareness, empathy for your neighbors, and kind of a momentum towards a stronger and more resilient food system is interesting and valuable, especially given the podcast format, which I think, has a lot of opportunity and also some risk, I guess, in terms of who may or may not absorb the content. I would say that they had really good endorsements of Joe, the leader, to make this happen. So I had confidence in that. And they've had some podcasts already in the past that have been successful according to this application. So again, good confidence that they can make this happen. I will say some small kind of areas of improvement might be to have additional or better evaluation metrics. They do say they expect feedback, but I think I would recommend maybe that they create a system for actually asking for feedback in a specific way. I'm glad that they're going to track like viewership or downloads, but I think there's additional, especially given their robust community, there's additional metrics that they could or metrics they could be evaluating and conversations they could be having to assess the value of this. A small recommendation to connect with UW Extension if they haven't already, since there's so many food system people in that arena and they would have a large network. They say at one point that their goal is to replace themselves in the creation of these with kind of their community members. I just wish that they maybe would have expanded on that because it sounds like they want to eventually have community members doing the interviews and production of the podcast, which could be an interesting component, but they didn't expand on it a lot. And then I'll just say, in the end, my last comment is that their, excuse me, their ask is almost the max. It's a little bit higher. And when I was going through the budget, the only thing I would add is that it seemed like a really large percent is coming from the cost of the space, which they're renting from another neighborhood organization. And maybe that's completely necessary, but it sounds like they're renting the space for an entire year exclusively. And I just wonder if there's other opportunities. I mean, I know there's other places in the community that have production studios, audio production studios, like already created, so they wouldn't have to put the effort in to like reserve their space all the time. Maybe they could just reserve it for the hour or two that they need it once a month. It just seemed like that was quite a large expense. So would have been interested to hear more about why that was such a need, but that's all.
Anything else?
I'd just like to ask, I guess, a group opinion. When I read this grant, I did not feel that maybe it was as good of a fit for this grant program. It's, I guess maybe podcasting is more new and it's storytelling podcasting, but in terms of like providing the community with high caliber art and meaningful arts experiences, I was really struggling to figure out how this is art and an arts experience when it's podcast storytelling about food insecurity. And so just this, I'm not letting this impact my scoring of it, because I think if it passed the test to get to this point, and now we're reviewing it as a panel, that we need to evaluate it based on its merit and its how they answered the questions. But I was really struggling with, all of the different applications that we reviewed in this round. This one really seemed not like the others. And so, but again, I'm not letting it impact my scoring. I think it was a really well put together application and I'm giving it a fairly high score. But I'm just curious to know if anybody else felt that way, or if maybe even Augusta or Kelsey has anything to comment on that.
I hear what you're saying, and the way my thought process worked, storytelling, and I went on that story, and storytelling is an art, and it is different, but and then I thought about the purpose and the impact of this by documenting these stories. So I kept on using the word stories, um, from farmers, entrepreneurs, families, and food deserts. It creates a space for public discourse, right? And then that's kind of how I went it. But I understand exactly what you're saying. So to me, and the podcast isn't new. It's, to me, they're creating this podcast that tells stories and to inform the people in such a way. The same way if you had a author and the author was on there and they're telling these stories, how it impacts. So that's kind of how I went through. But I did have a minute to think about it, like, did it fit? Same as you, Casey. You're like, does it fit? I mean, and that sort. So
Um, I don't know if maybe this is like a little bit of a stretch, but um, my mind kind of goes to, and I'm just kind of speaking here. My mind kind of just goes to like the production in creating a podcast is also kind of an art
Mhm.
form to be able to just create the thing. The podcast requires creativity in and of itself. So I don't know, just kind of spitballing here.
I mean, a podcast is this fresh, new, accessible medium, right? And then you got to think of right there as this fresh, hot medium. And just
Hmm.
because we're not really familiar with it, doesn't mean and that's kind of way I look at it. It's a medium where you can tell stories and be creative for the listeners. But I don't know if I'm pushing it. So sometimes, I don't know.
There are a lot of organizations that have podcasts. I mean, you can listen to news podcasts on public radio and different stations and everything, and they're all telling stories about important things.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I just,
The
again,
content though, right? Like,
it's a real stretch for me because, you know, you can write an article and tell a story and it's writing, but is it art? And is it, in alignment with what what the, you know,
ooh,
it's
that's a
a little
question.
bit
Is
of a
Hey,
it is
Casey,
stretch
it art?
because
Casey,
this is,
what is art?
yeah, I know.
Oh
I know.
man.
Yeah.
What is art? And then, many will argue that, it is art. You got to have some artistic value to create a podcast, especially to tell a story, or, you know, you have to be somewhat innovative. Well, yeah, good question though.
Thank you for letting me ask the question and for just being able to sound that out loud. Again, I
Okay.
just want to make sure everybody understands it's not impacting my score because I figure if it got to this point, we need to evaluate it based on what it is, but it was just a question for the future. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. And you're totally right. It is eligible under the umbrella of culture and local history. So the grant supports arts, culture, and local history as well. So that's
Okay.
something that we're reworking on for the next cycle. We're rearranging how the categories are described because this has come up last cycle too. So we'll see a little shift in how the application categories are laid out. And then Emily, did you have a thanks?
Thank you for that clarification, Augusta. I appreciate it.
All right. Anything else people want to add? All right. Let's take some time to submit scores. Any more time needed to submit? All right, let's move on to our final application. Stoughton Village Players, ID 26566, requesting $3,600. Jimmy is our primary and Ben is our secondary.
Okay, Stoughton Village Players, hands-on a Hardbody proposal. One thing that strikes me when I look at it is to fund our upcoming show that is based on a true story with interesting characters and great music. The show has not been done in this area, and that would be a great fit for the theater. So it made me curious of what is this? What is this? And it's to one of the goals to enrich our region through inclusive, engaging, and high quality live performances. Now, Hands on a Hardbody is a true play played on a contest where 10 people have to keep at least one hand on a truck for as long as possible in order to win it. I think I was in one of these. So it requires a full-size truck on stage, which sounds awesome to me. And each contestant tells a story from their life as they navigate the contest. One thing that stuck out, promotion. It's pretty old school. It's low budget. We have 150 flyers that we blanket Stoughton with at all local businesses, just and spread out by volunteers. We'll post at least twice a week in Facebook, starting January through the run of the show, and then we will market at other Dane County theater groups as well. This is a well-planned, community-driven theater project. I think it is very unique, entertaining to Dane County, and it strengthens and it does a lot. One thing that I think about as well, though, as I read it, is as always, I'm gonna go through this. I'm a stickler for a lot of things. The evaluation plan with the quantitative metrics as audience surveys or demographic tracking, and then to highlight more of the creative team credentials to build confidence. Um, One thing in its budget narrative, I read it a few times trying to get it based on past. They will sell tickets. Based on past events, we are confident in the estimated number of ticket sales due to the fact that we have sold out our production in the past and generally have at least 75% attendance rate. We estimated selling 437 tickets at $20 each for our production. At this is a small house, and the musical is not well known. So, in going down the proposal, this is distinctive and rarely produced musical in the area, blending music, storytelling, theatrical challenge of staging a real truck creates an innovative and memorable audience experience. I'm already sold with a big truck being on stage. Um, the proposal lists volunteer roles in a team structure, demonstrating strong community participation. While this shows organization capacity, it provides limited details about the professional or the artistic credentials of the creative team, which I like to know more about. Um, and then, while the proposal mentions outreach and marketing throughout Dane County theater groups, it does not cite the formal and external partners or collaborators beyond the SVP owns. Letters of support, such as from Linda, provides some external validation, but more formal partnership could strengthen this proposal. As always, this particular with the evaluation. The evaluation relies primarily on a post-show audience email questionnaire. While this offers some audience feedback, the plan would be stronger with additional quantitative metrics such as ticket sales analysis, audience demographic tracking, pre and post surveys to capture the show's cultural impact. Um, the benefit that it has to Dane County, the project provides innovative live theater and community engagement opportunities. However, while the production will certainly enrich Stoughton area, if the proposal could better articulate its broader impact on all of Dane County and provide a more detailed justification for the taxpayers' money. But overall, I thought this was well-planned, community-driven theater project that brings unique, entertaining musical to Dane County. Uh, and an opportunity for growth, strengthen the evaluation plan with quantitative metrics such as audience surveys and demographic tracking, um, broaden funding sources, maybe even beyond the ticket sales to reduce the financial risk and increase sustainability, and highlight more of the creative team credentials to build confidence in this artistic movement. This proposal merits high overall ratings with minor enhancements for evaluation and funding.
I think I agree with everything Jimmy was saying. Just I know I have probably proven myself to be a stickler for budgeting, but their request percentage isn't like it's maybe moderately high at 29.17%. Just a little concerning that the income listed, at least on the budget, was 8,740 in pending ticket sales. Um, and and then um, I think I did not see any other sources of incomes in terms of like grants. So this was the only grant I saw on there. So that was just a little concerning for me. I do think that the production itself is super entertaining and such a unique show to put on. So that is super exciting to offer that. Again, my kind of feedback just lies on that budgeting, just a little bit concerned there. And then, of course, also, I would have also liked to seen more, um, an improvement in the supplemental materials submitted, like Jimmy was saying, more about the artists, more about the people in charge putting on this production. I would like to learn a little bit more for that buy-in.
Great, thank you. Anything else from anyone?
Ben, I was just going to add that I noted that too, that it seemed like in their budget, what they were really asking for was to cover the cost of the truck to do this show. And I was like, they seem really confident in what they do. And this might just be a unique thing that they're going for. And maybe just like owning that and stating it, like we feel really, this is really to be able to bring in this unique prop to do this unique show. Because that's what I assumed based on everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's all. But unique. I thought it was great.
I will just add a little bit to that, and always willing to be disagreed with. I think this was a very good application for a community-oriented organization with a history of success. So that's awesome. I guess related to what everyone is saying, I found a little bit of concern in um, understanding who exactly is benefiting from this grant money and why it's valuable to the general community, because it is a ticketed event. So they're getting income like any normal theater would get from producing a play. And so the fact that they're not able to cover the costs of their own production with those tickets, especially given that it seems like the cost is coming from a single prop, feels like a difficult argument to make for me. I think it's great to try and have these innovative ideas, but in the grand scheme of grant funding, if really the argument is to pay for one particular prop so that people who are already paying you to see, which is a common model that people use as a business that they can already support themselves on, and with no other funding sources identified other than those ticket sales, I did feel like that was a difficult thing for me to digest. But everything else about the application was really great.
I'll just chime in quick too, that they did say that their estimated total audience size is 720. But then in the budget, when they said the ticket sales, they said 437 times 20. So I don't know why it's not 720 times 20, and it doesn't say anything about different ticket sales or different ticketing prices and stuff. The misalignment in those numbers was a concern to me.
But if we wanted to do some stuff over the month of October.
Maybe that was, I'm not sure of the seating capacity of that house. Maybe the 720, maybe like the capacity of the theater. And so they're just trying to be mindful that maybe they won't sell out because it's a new show. So they only put it to 437. I don't know. I'm just talking.
Yeah, it's because it seems almost like if they think they're going to have 720 audience members and that's how many people they're going to reach, that they might actually be having more ticket income than they're stating on here.
Yeah, that was kind of more of our save the date and then like more information coming. But if we really wanted to start like figuring out like, 25 vendors on site,
All right, thank you, everyone. Are there any other comments, questions, concerns?
After November 2nd, but I'm saying if we want to do some stuff on October, like.
All right, take a couple minutes to submit your scores.
Yay, you did it. All the scores are in.
I know I meet with.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Your scores and comments are incredibly helpful and crucially important to helping the commission make decisions about funding. Please be sure to submit any final responses on web grants before logging off. We appreciate your thoughtfulness, attention to detail, helpful insights, recommendations for improvement, thoughtful questions, and appreciation and celebration of these artists and their projects. You are welcome to attend events or on-site visits at no cost on behalf of Dane Arts. So please feel free to reach out to Mark or Augusta if you're interested in attending a Dane Arts sponsored event. The Dane Arts Commission will be meeting on Wednesday, October 18th at 8 a.m. to make the final decisions about the grant funding for this cycle. So before we sign off, we also want to give some time and space to offer up any insights or advice for Dane Arts on the panel review process or any other matters.